George Stroumboulopoulos has etched his name into Canadian history. His show, The Hour, was broadcast for years to homes coast to coast, and now he's an Apple Music radio host. And later today, he's speaking at Memo Fest here in Saskatoon. But first, he joins us now in studio. Good morning.
Etched or scrawled, clawed it into.
Clawed it
much
in
to the chagrin.
to Canadian history.
Hi, how are you?
Doing really well. I'm very excited to chat with you. You've been on my bucket list for years of someone that I just want to pick your brain
I'm here
a
for
little
you.
bit.
It's nice to be with you. Thank you.
Before we get into it, you've been on a bit of a tour across Canada. What's that been like?
It's been interesting. I got approached in the, I don't know when it was, early summer, beginning of spring, and I just do what I normally do, which is I just don't read emails. So I didn't respond to anything, and then I got a couple of messages on LinkedIn. I just didn't respond because that's just who I am. I'm living in the moment. And the older I get, the less I want to read any messages. But it was, hey, we're doing this thing about Canadian film and TV. Do you want to talk about it? I knew the guy, so I liked him, and I went, oh, you know what, it's you? Okay, so I'll set up a meeting. And it was we just want to talk about Canadian culture and how it impacts Canadians, and maybe, if we are, how we're different because of what we grew up consuming, watching film and TV. I said, okay, we can do that. Or why don't we do it? Actually do it. Why don't we go across the country and meet people, go to the places where they watch the stuff, meet the people who lived there, who made the stuff. Mm-hmm. And they said, all right. I didn't actually expect them to say yes to that. And so they did. And all of a sudden, in a couple of weeks, I packed up a bag and I flew to Vancouver. And then I've been cars, trains, planes, lots of boats, horses, motorcycles, moving them away across the country.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because you've been living in Los Angeles for a while now.
Well, I still live in Toronto. So
okay.
So I do a show to LA and New York, but Toronto is still my home. Yeah,
wonderful.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you what it's like being back home, but I guess you never really truly left.
Well, I haven't. And also in Toronto, in my neighborhood, I live right downtown. It's a neighborhood that you almost never leave. So I feel like I've been across this country many, many times in my life. I've been in Saskatchewan a lot. And I think I was here a couple of years ago, last in Saskatoon. But I haven't had a chance to spend this kind of time on the road. Usually I do it in between the work I'm doing. Mm-hmm. This time it is the work I'm doing. So I've really enjoyed it. But it's certainly a different place. It's certainly a different place when you travel across the country. It's a weird time in our country's history. And I'm here for it.
You are in town. I think a lot of people are wondering, what's George Stroumboulopoulos doing here in Saskatoon? But you're here for Memo Fest. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're going to be speaking about?
Well, I'm going back to that earlier thing about how I don't want to read emails. I also don't want to do anything. So it's not true. It's partly true. I don't do speeches. I don't do keynotes. I don't want to. And I think sometimes people ask me to come and do a thing, and I just say no. I don't find that particularly interesting. I don't think that that's how the modern conversation should go. I feel like it should be more two-way, and that's why I like Q&As. So they asked me if I would do this conference, and it was at a time when I wasn't particularly available because I still have a show with Apple. And they said it was in Saskatoon, and I went, oh, I like Saskatoon. Maybe I'll do that. But I said, I'm not going to do a keynote, so let's just do a Q&A. And they said, okay. So a woman that I met in Calgary, actually, who's from here, Joelle Tomlinson, is going to be the one who's interviewing me. And then I'll do a Q&A with people there. Because I've worked long enough in my career talking to people and sharing stories with them, a lot of the creative world overlaps. So everything from design to entertainment to politics to any kind of expression. There are a lot of lessons I've learned over the years interviewing 10,000 people for 30 odd years or something like that. So that's what that's what I think I'm going to be talking about, but I have no idea what Joelle is going to ask me, and I don't ever want to know the questions in advance. So I like being surprised.
It keeps the conversation just more natural too.
It does. And also I summarily reject the notion of the person being interviewed as the person in the power seat. Mm-hmm. I don't want to have any control over the situation. I'm here for a reason. So it's your job, their job, anybody's job to get what they want out of me, not for me to sell a message. When I've interviewed people over the years, I know what they're promoting is important, and I want to give them the space to do that because that is why they're there. But that is not the bulk of the conversation. This is, to me anyway, about the human experience. Mm-hmm. And it's hard enough, the human experience, and it's joyous and it's painful and it's all these things. So I think it's important for me to have skin in the game. And the way for me to do that is, or one of the ways, is I don't know. Ask whatever you want. And if I'm uncomfortable, it's my job as a grown-ass man to say, I don't know if I can talk about that, or I shouldn't talk about that.
Yeah.
Which I don't think I've ever said.
Okay, this is where I want to pick your brain a little bit because you've been in media for a very long time. You've seen the landscape completely change, as we all kind of are, is social media, podcasts, cuts to big media companies. How have you been able to kind of carve your own path? And does it make you sad seeing those changes, or does it make you excited?
Well, I think philosophically, it's a shame when a country that had such a strong relationship with media, when that goes away, philosophically. Practically, though, you have a handful of companies that own all the stuff. They complain about the change in the business, but our internet and cell phone rates go up. So it's not like they're really hurting. So so I don't mourn the loss of the big corporations' control at all. I think a lot of them do good work, for sure. I've had my wins and losses with CBC over the years, but I'm a big believer in public broadcasting, an enormous believer. And spending any time living in a country that doesn't have public broadcasting, you see where it actually matters. It is flawed, it is imperfect, like anything is, but it is imperfect philosophically. It is, and maybe you can talk about how things are run, but it's not. Its primary goal is not to increase the value of the shares for a handful of rich people, right? So it's a very different experience, public broadcasting. I think all of it should exist. All of these things should exist. So I definitely feel like, and maybe it's because I worked at Much Music in the golden era, right? We were there when it was crazy just how amazing Much Music was to work. And then I watched it trail off when kids started downloading music and not buying it. The record industry lost their way. And so the whole thing fell apart. The record industry bounced back. They're doing just fine. They're doing fine now. But Much was unbelievable. And when I was at CBC doing the talk show, first on News World and then on the main network, it was intentional. We were a part of it to celebrate and talk about Canadian stories. So I feel like I was definitely a part of something really special, and I'm really grateful for that. But as for where we are now, I don't think it's ever been easier or better to be in the media. It's the best time ever. It used to be you worked really hard to get noticed, then you got a job, and then you got some money and stability, and then you built. Now it's really hard to get noticed. There's no money up front, but the payoff at the end is way bigger. Joe Rogan's bigger than anybody that's done TV or radio in a long time. Howard Stern maybe was the only one, and he kind of did it traditional. But even when I was in radio college in the early 90s, they talked about satellite radio being the end of us. So there's been 10 different versions of the end of us over time, and I'm still going. And I think it's the best time ever to be this kind of broadcaster storyteller, but you just front load the drama. And it's a different kind of drama. But the business is better now than it is if you're an independent spirit. If you need to be led and you need to be inspired and you need to find it in other places, you're screwed. It's really difficult. But if you are a leader, if you're an independent thinker, this is the best time ever, I think.
You are such an advocate as well for social issues. You're very vocal on social media. I know you're still attached to Apple Music, but do you find that difficult to find your voice while also, I guess?
No, not. I mean, I'm in my 50s, so yeah. I've done this a long time. I don't think I know my voice. I don't have to find it. The challenge is always the pacing of it. So if I'm talking about music, not everybody wants to tune into a music show and hear public broadcasting diatribe on what a genocide is. That's not what that is, right? But I still think it's important for me to talk about these things. So the challenge is always finding the right cadence and the way to do it, because you don't want everybody to tune out. You want to reach people. And so for me, it's very basic to me. It's what's the end goal? The end goal is, in my life, is for you, if you spend any time watching or listening to what I do or connecting with me, is that you go to bed feeling a little better, knowing a little more, and hopefully being a little lovelier than you were when you woke up. That's the goal I want for you. It's the goal I want for me as the person who's doing this. And also maybe being a little bit, not maybe, definitely being a little bit more engaged in how everybody matters or nobody matters. And I believe that the world's most vulnerable are targeted. We're seeing it. There's lots of money and effort being poured into silencing people who speak up for human rights. And I think it's important to do it. How you do it, I don't judge somebody in how they do it. I think you find your way. For sure, I have lost work, big money jobs over this, over my position on Gaza. For sure. I was told it directly to my face. And that to me is not surprising, but I'm okay with it because I stand by my values. Apple, to their credit, has let me do my thing. They've trusted me for years to tell the stories and play the music. I don't know if on higher levels in that company they're, unsure of what I say, especially because I hold musicians to a very high standard. I hold musicians to a much higher standard than the younger kids do. This modern generation has a very different relationship with audience than with their bands than I did. We live in stan culture now, where they take somebody, put them on a pedestal, and anybody who criticizes them, that's an assault on them personally. We live in stan culture. I am not a part of stan culture. I am a part of a musician's job is the same as mine, which is the same as a listener, which is we are here for the people. We are the people, right? And so I don't live in stan culture world. And a lot of pop music media outlets, it's basically it's the record labels and the publicists and everybody we're all just trying to keep the thing going. And I'm not that guy. I'm the guy that blows the train tracks up. I'm not the guy that keeps the train going to sell more records. My job is in part, to make sure the artist I'm talking to has a long career by being a real person. And so Apple's been great to me. I've had no issues with them. Honestly, they never tell me. I mean, I've been there 5 years. I don't really hear much. Just keep going. And that's all I hear, and I like it. And, other places definitely don't love how vocal I am, but I don't care. I don't, because people need help. People need us. They need each other. And people need to feel like they're not invisible, not just globally, but here. And I think that's part of our job. If we're going to have microphones or cameras, these are paintbrushes, and our job is to be responsible on the canvas, man. And so sometimes it makes people nervous, but whatever. Whatever. CBC told me 3 times I couldn't do a thing. Only 3 times in my 10 years there.
That's not bad.
4 if you count the time I used a slur that took God's name in vain, and I got a really long series of letters, and I deleted every single email I got. And then I told the boss who asked me to respond, I said, no, because I don't believe in that. So why would I have to play along? Why would I? And so I'll upset people. And the 2 big religions have both been mad at me over time, but I don't mind. You're allowed to be mad at me. That's freedom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I could talk to you for hours, but I really appreciate you just taking a few minutes to chat with us this morning, and welcome back to Saskatoon.
Thanks. What are you listening to these days? You're not stuck listening to kids' music, are you?
I mean, Baby Shark does play over and over again.
Is that the worst song ever made, though?
The worst song.
Ever. I'm glad whoever made it because they got paid, I hope. But that song, I heard it at Burning Man after being out late at night, and some gigantic stapler was riding by playing Baby Shark at a deafening volume, and I thought, I to this point hadn't believed in a hell, but I feel like
you found it.
It's Baby Shark. So it's not just kids' music in your life?
No. Luckily, my husband is a big music guy, so we listen to all sorts of stuff. I think most lately, War on Drugs and The National have kind of been on repeat for us.
I think Blood Buzz Ohio is one of the great songs. The National, it's one of the great. That guy was a marketing guy in New York, and he was a musician with his brother, and they were just, but he was a marketing guy, and he had a real career in New York as a marketing guy, and then just thought, I think I'm going to make this thing a real thing, this music thing, and that's what The National really became.
Wow.
And of course, he understands messaging, and wrote some brilliant. But the first time I heard Blood Buzz Ohio, I remember thinking, this is a really special band.
Well, maybe we'll have to play that.
You will.
George, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.